Hello and welcome to the newspaper review here on TAP TV. It's a sunny day. Yes, unlike yesterday that we're seeing a cold weather. Well, this is a newspaper review here on TAP TV where we get to discuss with people on the streets. We get to see their reactions as regards headlines making rounds on the papers. We discuss with people on the streets of Port Harcourt. My name is Obed Jerry, your host for today. And yes, you out there can also be a part of this show. You could subscribe to our channel. If you are yet to subscribe, turn on your notification button, connect with us across all our social media platforms. Well, before we discuss with people on the streets, let's first look into the newspaper headlines and see what the stories look like. First, we'll be looking at the Daily Sun newspaper. We can see as headline here reads, Lassa fever kills 23 in Ebonyi. Sub-story under that reads, Kwara records 1,869 TB cases in 2023. Details of this story is found on page 28. On the main story here, we could see it says, federal government goes tough on Gumi amid deaths of school staff. Sub-story under that reads, invites Sheikh over school kids abduction, bandit activities. Another sub-story under that reads, 6 students hospitalized. Governor Sani receives 131. Details of this story is found on page 5 and 6 of the Daily Sun newspaper. We could see here it says, government secure 1.5 billion yard. Headsmen kill 6 farmers in Nasarawa community. Details is found on page 5. NAF strikes more terrorist hideout in Lake Chad, kills scores. Detail of this story is found on page 4. PDP tackles OT over repeal of governors, deputies pension law. Details is found on page 28. Israel agrees prisoner exchange with Hamas. Sub-story under that reads, UN Security Council resolution calls for ceasefire in Gaza. US abstains from voting. Details is found on page 27. How Binance boss fled with smuggled passports, says Onsa. Sub-story under that reads, security advisors personnel responsible for custody of suspected arrested. I take that again, says security advisors personnel responsible for custody of suspect arrested. We are aware he escaped, says company. Details is found on page 2 and 4. NGE asks government to fix insecurity, demands release of abducted editor. Details is found on page 8, and that's all we'll be taking on the Daily Sun newspaper. And moving on, we'll be looking at the Nation's newspaper. We can see here it says, how IPOB, other terrorist groups are funded by NFIU. Details of this story is found on page 4. Security men under fire over Binance chief. Sub-story under that reads, firm evading taxes. Details is found on page 2. Millions gone in Anambara market fire. Details of this sad story is found on page 5. You can see here it says, 2 nominees declined to serve on panel probing Philip Shaibu. Details is found on page 5. Convention will hold in Nnewi, Labour Party insists. Sub-story under that reads, delegates arriving already. Details is found on page 2. At the main story here, it says, 6 Kaduna school children hospitalized after freedom. Sub-story under that reads, all 137 of us abducted were released, says pupils. Another sub-story under that reads, federal government, GOC, no ransom paid. Details is found on page 2. FEC okays 1.2 trillion naira for 28 roads. Details is found on page 4. Government concedes 2% appointment quota to youths. Details is found on page 4 of the Nation's newspaper, and that's all we'll be taking on the Nation's newspaper. And lastly, we'll be looking at the Punch newspaper. We can see here it says, federal government deducts 415 billion naira state allocations for debt servicing. Details is found on page 21. CBN directs BDCs to sell dollar at 1,269 naira per dollar. Details is found on page 23. Federal government threatens Gumi with arrest. Condemns reckless statements. Details is found on page 20. At the main story here, it says, Binance chief, federal government contacts Interpol. Soldiers held over detainees escape. Sub-story under that reads, escape shocks security agencies. Detained soldiers risks disciplinary action. Binance support probe. Details is found on page 2. Ondo farmers protest alleged farmland takeover by Chinese firm. Details is found on page 8. Enugu, Boronu record 7,496 tuberculosis case in 2 years. Details is found on page 29. Anambara man jailed 10 years for defiling 9-year-old daughter. a very sober one. It's a very bad story to hear. Details is found on page 4 and 5. Rivers police kill court commander during shootout. Details is found on page 5, and that's all we'll be taking on the dailies for today. Now let's get to see the reactions of people on the streets. Let's get to hear what they have to say as regards these headlines on the paper. Stay tuned. All right, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I would like your thoughts on the punch. This sad story that says Anambara man jailed 10 years for defiling 9-year-old daughter.
Most time it's a common sight in Nigeria. It's not only.
It's not supposed to be so.
Yeah, not supposed to be so, but some maybe spiritual. You understand? Because some people, when they go into certain things, they say that is what you have to do. When you enter, yes. Because some of them, when they enter society, a particular society, so there must something you must do. Maybe they give him something, you must sleep with your daughter. Some they will say that instead of to kill the daughter or to kill your wife, you will do this because you know it's not something that is good. But mainly, I believe that the majority of those people doing this thing is spiritual. It's not ordinary. Because how on earth your own daughter, you sleep with your own daughter, it's not reasonable now. But I believe those people doing it might be under spiritual cause. Another thing, it can be spiritual spell. Maybe somebody quarrel with another person, so they will say, okay, you are going to misbehave. They will even give punishment. As a punishment. You do this to me, you do that to me. As a result of that, you see it. As their language in local parlance, you will see now. So it can be propelled to do such a thing. So it's not acting by himself. So there are forces. Yeah. So maybe after he might have done it, then his eye is clear. But he has to do it. Like they remove some of them. They remove them to go and do something. Even they remove some people to go and steal. They enter market and see so that they will get embarrassed. Yes. But they will not know the time they lay their hand on something. It just be like dream to them when they wake up say, okay, it's me that did this one. Unbelievable. So I believe 90% of this type of cases is spiritual. So it's not ordinary something.
Okay, sir. So what's your thoughts on the punishment allocated to it, like 10 years jail?
Yes. The punishment meted to him, he has to, endure and take it.
But the punishment worth it?
It's worth it because law does not believe in those spiritual something. Law does not believe that there is a witch somewhere killing people. Law does not believe that there's a wizard somewhere killing people. Even though you have a case in court and you go to court, say so person is the one that killed my John, so person is killed my daughter or my brother. They don't believe because you cannot produce the evidence. You understand now? So if they look at it, but in court now, they don't look at those things. They will just deal because you have done something very wrong. You understand now? They have to give him the appropriate punishment. But if we were to be in those days now, when the day of our forefathers, they go and find out what made the man did what he did. You understand now? Because of that thing. So they will see because like this man now, they found out very well now that I said with our daughter. If they found out, they will know that it's not ordinary something.
So as an elderly man, what's your advice to like fathers and men out there generally?
My advice to them is that always be yourself. Some people, it might be as a result of money now. Maybe you see your friend, he's buying cars, he's building houses, he's buying land, you don't know the source of his wealth. So they now advise you, when you join this society, it will give you money. Like this one now. Some people, they go to sleep with mad women too. You understand now? They use that to do something. They use that kind of thing to do something. So my advice to you is that it's not ideal for you to be comparing yourself with so person. So person has money. You don't know the source of the money. So my advice is that everybody should be hardworking. And anything that is not natural is bound to have very negative consequences. If money becomes natural, it will be worse than worse than the benefit. Because there are some people that are even kill themselves as a result of this kind of thing. The society they say they want to enter because they are looking for power, because they want to have money. But by the time you have entered it, you don't know the detail. But they'll tell you there's no problem. Just come and join us. But by the time you have entered deep, you cannot go back again. You understand now? That's it.
All right, thank you very much. All right, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Welcome. I would like your thoughts on the nation's newspaper that says government concedes 2% appointment quota to youths.
Okay, it is quite unfortunate that for the past 63 to 64 years and still counting, the youth have not had a seat on like a permanent seat, like on the high ranking in our government, like a political seat that you say, okay, this is always for the youth, like an assistant to the president and the likes of it. But them are allocating 2% to us now. I hope they are not just giving us as a mirage, because they keep telling us we are the future of Nigeria, of tomorrow. We are the hope of tomorrow. I can bet you for free, the youth, we have waited for our tomorrow. We don't even know when our tomorrow is now. So I will not say I'm surprised that they are giving us 2%, because we as youth, we have actually been quiet. We've actually been patient, waiting for it. So we are praying that this 2% now actually yields a positive effort. Not that we will just hear this as a mirage. I know they will tell us that they have given us a chance as youth in this present government in regards to that the youngest minister. You can remember the story now. That's like the first youngest person we have had in a political clique, and though she did not set a perfect record for the youth,
He ruined it.
Obviously, that notwithstanding, we still have a chance. If and only if, because government have said 2% now. If and only if we can utilize the 2% well, because the records we have already is that youth were given a chance, and it didn't yield the positive result. So it's a good thing that they are giving us 2%, and we pray and hope to use it well, and they should also help us, because we have things to say. We have a lot upstairs to actually bring to the table. We have what to offer to the present situation of Nigeria. We are smart, willing, and able to work youth in Nigeria. So our government should give us chance. It shouldn't just be on the newspaper. The 2% should be effective.
Now, to you, is that 2% enough for you?
Okay, for now, I would not say, because before now we don't even have 2%. So I cannot even be complaining over the 2 they have given us. But out of 100%, they decide to give us 2. It's enough. I'm saying they're trying to see how effective we can be with 2%. Because if we get to be very productive with the 2% they have given to us, I bet you more percentage will be added to this. We just need to deliver the 2% first. They are our fathers. It's like your father giving you a task and telling you to accomplish it. So the more you do it perfectly well, the more the upload comes, the more you're being promoted. So let's not complain about the 2%. To my own opinion, let's utilize it well, because we have to plant the seed first. So this is like a seed for us. If we can plant it and nurture it well, I bet you better percentage. Who knows? The next regime, or in the next few months, we might be giving 30 to 50.
But we know how the government is, we know how Nigeria is. They might want to continue retaining that 2% quota continuously.
In as much as we are hoping that they shouldn't retain it, that's why let our work speak first, because there is no way, if our work is greater than the 2%, the evidence will be there, and I bet you they will not have a choice than to increase it. But let's be efficient with this first before we make any other move.
And lastly, now we could see that Nigerian youths are so nonchalant as regards political participation. That is why they are not being included in this kind of
obviously, just like I said before, now we are just carrying the tag